The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of KSMQ Public Service Media Incorporated or its assigns.
Tonight we're discussing rural grocery stores and the roles they play in southern Minnesota. Are the rural stores giving away to big box stores? Stay tuned. You're watching Health Connections. There's considerable research on the effect of big box stores on local small businesses. However, what does the big box store mean for the people in our rural communities here in southern Minnesota? What does the decline of rural Main Street mean for the availability of fresh food and produce? We'll discuss that tonight and more. First, let me welcome our guest. We have Kay from Brownlow's Red Owl and Leroy. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So, Kay, tell me about Red Owl.
Well, it's been in my family for 80 years. So we're in Leroy, Minnesota, and my father is still there. He's 78, and I help run it, and my daughter works there too.
So there's only a couple of Red Owls left in the country, right?
There's two left in the country, right. One is in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and then one is in Leroy.
Okay. And then Leroy is about how many people?
Oh, about 1,000.
About 1,000
yep,
people.
About 1,000 people.
Okay. So rural food at its best in this case.
Yes.
Okay. So how do you compete with these big box?
Well, number one thing is to have great customer service. We deliver groceries every Friday to anybody. Actually, it doesn't have to be a certain person, but elderly people, people that, maybe they're too busy to get groceries. If they want to call, we deliver groceries to them. Absolutely.
Cool.
So that's one of our main things. And fresh cut meat. My dad still cuts the meat every day. He's in there grinding hamburger, and people, come in just for his steaks, kind of give that kind of customer service. So that's important.
And this is something that's kind of disappearing nationally, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely, yeah.
Right.
Absolutely, I think so.
So do you see your produce compared to some of the big box folks out there, and your meats compared to those folks? How would you compare yourselves in that case?
Well, the produce is fresher, especially in the summertime. We go to a produce auction down by Riceville, Iowa, and the corn that we buy is picked that day. Hasn't been sitting in a warehouse for a week before we get it. So we know it's fresh. We know the people that grow it. My husband does all the produce buying, so if he doesn't like the way it looks, he's not going to bring it back to the store. And we kind of have a reputation for our good produce, healthy, and and that's important to people nowadays, with concerning their health.
So what options do you think people have in other communities that might not have a store like yours?
Farmers markets would be a place. And I don't know, I think a lot of towns now have them. Okay. And Leroy really doesn't. And I think maybe one of the reasons is we have all this produce coming in. And we have it 3 times a week. Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays he goes and buys the produce. And depending on what we get, we'll sell in bulk. If you want to make salsa and you want boxes of tomatoes, if he gets them at a cheap price, so will you. So
Cool.
And it works out. And people know that. So any kind, like cucumbers, you want to make pickles, put your order in, we'll get it for you.
So do you end up partnering with like those type of things where you've got the food groups that maybe you bring them in to into the grocery store or do anything like that, or do you end up sponsoring anything like that? Or?
Oh, sometimes, yes. Yeah, we do. Sometimes we do. People just know that when they come in, they're going to get good produce, and that's what is really important, for me.
So the biggest complaint I always hear about, I don't want to you know, I don't want to stop at the little local grocery store. Somebody they complain about price,
Yeah.
and then they'll also complain about, you know, that they work somewhere else and they pick stuff up on their way home, and
Exactly.
you know, that it's out of the way, even though it's
Yep.
maybe a block and a half from where they live.
Yes, yeah.
So
Yep.
what are your thoughts there?
Well, we cannot compete with some of these bigger stores as prices, you know. But if you can make up for it in different areas, like your customer service, being there for them. I mean, if they call me at home at 7:30 at night and say, oh, I'm out of baby formula, I'm there. You know, I'll go open the store for them, and people know that. And I think those kind of little personal things are really important for people. When if you want to go and you're only looking at price, you know, you have to remember it still costs you to drive out of town. It costs you an extra hour to get there, an hour to come home. You know, maybe you have to pay a babysitter, you know, to go, you know, get your groceries out of town or whatever. I mean, they have to take all that into consideration.
So as far as Red Owl goes, what are some of your plans or your innovations that you've done to keep yourself competitive and to let people know about your customer service?
Well, as you said, there's only 2 Red Owls left in the country. And I've been collecting Red Owl memorabilia for, well, as long as I've been in the store, which is all my life. And I started buying stuff on eBay, things that I didn't have, and they're very rare. And right now I have about 1,500 items in the store that I've put up all around, and we sell these shirts. And I just amazes me the people that will drive through town and they see the Red Owl and they stop and they buy shirts and they might buy a Cooley cup, or people find me on the internet and they'll come down and they'll say, well, my grandma worked at Red Owl and 1940, and I want a picture. And I take pictures of everybody that comes to see the store, and I'm making up a big board of their names and where they came from. And so it's been kind of it's been nice. It's been to get some publicity that way, and that brings people in the store, and when people talk. So yeah, so that's been one of my things of trying to keep our business going.
So with the store being 80 years old, so back in the 1930s, 40s, it was probably a very different business model.
Yeah,
you probably
very
had
much
lots
so.
and lots of smaller stores
Yes.
in these communities.
I think at one time there was 11 grocery stores in Leroy.
In a town of 1,000 people?
Yeah, and my grandpa
Wow.
was the only one that survived.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's not
Yeah.
saying something in itself.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
So, so what was it like then versus now? And do you think that's kind of attributed to some of the health problems that we see nowadays, where, we've seen all sorts of changes, so you can't attribute all of this to one thing. But it used to be we'd have, our food was grown daily, it was picked up daily, it was, available at that local store quickly.
Yep.
And today everything's frozen, packed, shipped, and
Yeah.
sits
Yeah.
wherever it is
Yeah,
for
it
however
sits
long.
wherever it is, and I think there's more calories, and there's, I don't think it's as good for you health-wise, for all the preservatives and everything that they have in there. And back when my grandpa started, people, they baked all their own bread. I mean, that's when he sold potatoes in 100-pound bags and flour in 100-pound bags and all that kind of stuff, and all that's just, out the door. They just don't do that stuff
You're
anymore.
lucky if you can do that even at the big bulk stores.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can still get 100-pound bags of flour, but I don't have to order them very often. So it's been a lot of change because there's not as many people. If you can say, yes, there's 1,000 people in Leroy, and there was 1,000 people in Leroy, let's say in 1970. But it was the outlying areas of the farmers. There was a family on every 160 acres. They had, an average of 4 to 6 kids, and, they would come into town once a week and buy all their groceries. And, the ladies stayed home. They didn't work out of town. And it's hard for, I know it's hard for the ladies that work in Rochester and live in Leroy. It's 45 miles away, and they have to, I got to get groceries, so I'll stop on my way home. So we try to stay open a little bit longer in town, for the ladies to come in, pick up what they need. So, but it's all different. I mean, everything is different from when he first started. So.
So have you had to change your business recently? So we've got the way it was back in the 30s and 40s. Over the last 5-10 years, have you really had to change your business to compete too?
Well, Yeah, you do. I mean, like I said, you have to really toot your own horn, as I say. You know, that's why I started the website. You know, so people could find us and say, you know what, we'll do these things. I started a delivery service from the internet. I said, if you email me your grocery list, we'll put it together. We'll either deliver it to your home. We can have it ready. You can pick it up at the store. You know, we'll give you 10% off the top if that's the way you want to do it. You know, little things like that that just really help.
See, that's an incredible innovation, really, because you're charging people less to deliver it to their home, versus there are a couple of websites out on the more popular in larger communities.
Yep, like Simon Says. Or,
Yep, exactly, where people can go out and order food, but then they have to pay a 20% premium to get it delivered to them.
Well, I did this so I could appeal to the younger families that are busy. You know, they have kids, they're in school, they're doing all this stuff, they're working full time. This would be an easy way. You know, here, give me your grocery list, I'll do it all for you. Yeah.
That's great. Did you get a decent response off of
that?
Yeah,
I did. Yeah. Yep, I sure did. But now, you know, you kind of get by the wayside, and, you know, it's not something that I need to start up again. You know, not that we're not still doing it, but it's just you need to maybe advertise it a little bit more.
Not as much PR about it.
Exactly.
So
people know that that's what you do.
Okay.
Because there is a turnover of people, of young families moving in and out of Leroy, you know, in getting jobs and moving or whatever. So you gotta, you know, make sure that you let them know what you're doing.
Sure.
It's very important.
So a lot of stores have gone to diversifying massively. I mean, like Walgreens, for instance, is one that's been around for 80 plus years as well. And the way they decided to try to survive as a grocery store from way back when, and a pharmacy from way back when, is now they sell all sorts of everything.
Yep.
Have you had to kind of turn into that same?
You know, I tried. I did. I put in a whole dollar section. And I got some clothing in there because, you know, if you come to Leroy, there's nowhere to buy a pair of socks. You know, or if you want a bath towel. I sold a lot of towels, like for the state park. People come in, you know, oh, we're going swimming, we don't have a towel. You know, so I've tried to put some, you know, little things like that. Sure. Nothing huge, but, you know, to offer all these different little things.
Sure.
Yeah, that, you know, that people, you know, wouldn't be able to get in Leroy.
Right.
If we didn't carry them.
So do you think those people, as you said, they couldn't get it in Leroy, but do you think they wouldn't get it at all? I mean, are there a fair amount of people in your community that might not be able to get out of
Yeah, absolutely,
community?
yeah. That's why we have the delivery service. Yep.
So is there a particular group that really benefits more than others, do you think, from things like your service?
Oh, I suppose the elderly. You know, and we have our Wildwood Grove, our assisted living center, and we do a lot of deliveries to them.
Okay.
You know, so because it's an apartment and it's / assisted living, so, yep.
Sure. So what do you think the next steps are? I mean, what are some of the things to I mean, you got to do this continuous battle to try and stay solvent in a small community.
Yep.
And what are some of the next steps that do you try and get larger community support? I mean, we've heard, especially out of the recession, we've heard tons and tons of the buy local type of communication
that's really
that has
important.
gone out there.
And Leroy's really good. We just had our celebration, and, you know, the firemen, they buy the chicken, you know, and all the potato salad and stuff from us, and like they give the dance and all that kind of stuff to maybe the restaurant across the street, and they try to include everybody in town. They all gets their little portion of the business. And it's really, really important that we all stick together, because we don't, you know, otherwise small towns are just going to kind of go, poof.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
Does that kind of work for you and against you at the same time? Because if you market, say, to Leroy and try to get the local business and speak about local, and then you go a couple miles the other direction towards Teope, and they say, well, you're not local. You're a different town.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it would. Another thing that I think is we need to offer, like you said, a more diversified things in the store. There's a restaurant next door that's closed and it's empty, and I'm kind of working on maybe getting that to go into with my store, get a bakery, get a deli going, And that all kind of goes with the grocery store, you know, so it's things like that that you have to keep thinking of doing to get into the future. And if the people work out of town, they come home, they go, oh, I don't want to cook. You have a deli, let's go get some chicken, you know, and everybody wins.
So there's a lot of programs now today for community health initiatives. One of the shows that we had just recently had was statewide health improvement project, and all of these different initiatives. Do you think that local grocery stores could be really a big part of that, and maybe doing things like you were just saying, delis, bakeries, doing those more that fresh foods? Do you think that there's a possibility for engagement there?
Oh, absolutely. So. Yeah, absolutely. And even if we can get involved with the schools, you know, that would be another thing. You know, if we can, you know, get involved with the schools with the fresh fruits and maybe the juices instead of pop, and you know, all that kind of different stuff too. You know, and there's lots of different things at the school they have for the younger, you know, for preschoolers and things like that. And you know, they bring them in the store and they show them, you know, the meat department, and we do all that every year, and that's kind of nice too. And you know,
make some hamburger in front of them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
As long as they don't play with it too much.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
So with that, is there anything that you would suggest that maybe we should look towards for maybe community health and trying to engage those local stores for the purpose of maybe fighting obesity or some of the other problems that we have on a large scale?
Well, absolutely, doing the fresh fruits and the produce, and you know, and not so much with the, you know, pop and candy and all the things that they shouldn't be having, you know, and doing maybe some, you know, posters in the schools and, you know, things like that, I think would be good.
Well, it sounds like it could be really a niche market where one of the biggest problems that a lot of places have is trying to differentiate themselves. And again, they fall in that kind of that big box problem. The big box store is cheaper and on the way to work or on the way back from work, so they have this real problem trying to get the customer to come in.
Yeah.
And it sounds like maybe there's an opportunity there to differentiate themselves and say we're the local healthy choice versus just the local choice.
Exactly. And you know, and just like at this produce auction, everything is organic. I mean, they don't really advertise it like that, but it is. You know, they don't spray, you know, or anything like that. And you know, we put it's organic, you know, and people are looking for that. But you don't have to pay the big price that you would in the city.
Right. Right. Where organic means double the cost.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, that's great. So from Red Owl's side of things, how have you survived this long as a Red Owl?
Oh, that's a whole story in itself. My grandpa started with Red Owl in 1931, and Red Owl actually was bought out by Super Value in 1989. And in, let's see, probably about 2003.
Super Value is my alma mater grocery store that I worked at when I was 14.
Yeah.
So,
And in about 2003, we changed grocery companies. We let go of Super Value and went with a different one. And I don't think Super Value was very happy with that. And they made us take all our signs down, and we couldn't be Red Owl anymore. And wow, it didn't work out with that grocery company, so we went with Mason Brothers in Wadena, Minnesota. And Super Value got a hold of us, and they said, since your grandpa was with us for 50 years and your dad's been with us for 40 years, we're going to let you run your Red Owl signs. Just pay us a certain amount every week, a minimal amount. And so every year I write them a little check, and we get the whole Red Owl thing.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Think it's going to come back? And
I don't know. I heard rumors about that. I heard rumors that they wanted to maybe get back into the smaller stores, and they wanted to use, the whole Red Owl concept of, small, good service, quality products, things like that. So who knows? Maybe. And the only reason that they actually heard about us is because when they made that movie, A Serious Man, in Minneapolis, they called Super Value, and Super Value said they wanted Red All items to put in the movie. And they said, well, you know what, we only know of one Red All, and that's in Leroy, and you have to see if she has anything. Well, I did. I have a whole bunch of stuff, like I said before. So that's how kind of we all got together, and they let us put all our signs back up and kind of, you know, do the whole Red All thing. So
That's pretty cool.
yeah, it is.
So do you partner with any other small grocery stores and communities around you for?
Well, yeah, some of the other stores that Mason Brothers has, like Riceville, Iowa, you know, let's say I ran out of ice cream. I call him up, he's like, yep, no problem. You know, he brings me a bunch of ice cream, and we help each other out that way. Or if he runs out of eggs and, you know, things like that. Or let's say we go to the produce auction and they are selling 500 watermelons. Well, obviously I can't use that. We'll call some of the other stores and they'll say, yeah, we'll take 100 or we'll take 100, and you know.
Need a watermelon crushing festival.
Exactly, yeah. But see, that's the way it works. You know, we all again have to stick together.
Is there any like formalized co-op to keep groups like that going?
Not really. No, not that I know of, anyways. But you know, it might be an idea.
So what happens when other stores run into difficulties and say a store in a local community closes down? How does that affect you?
Well, it definitely. Okay, so Riceville's actually closed their store for like 8 months. Affected me. It was awesome. I had a whole bunch of business, whole bunch of new business, because you know we were close. We're only 10 miles.
Sure.
And then they reopened, and you know I lost some of that, but then we're still close, you know. And Lanesboro lost their grocery store, and they came to us and they asked us if we would, you know, go over there and try to, you know, get it reopened and run it, but
Sure.
it's just not feasible. It's just
Lanesboro's a jaunt.
it's a real jaunt, and money-wise, you know, it just if you have to put, you know, a whole bunch of money into it and make payments, and it just, you know, in a small town, it just doesn't, you know, it just doesn't work. You know, these stores that have been here like mine for a long time have an advantage over somebody that's, you know, if you said, I'm going to go, you know, start a new grocery store in Leroy, and it's, you know, it's $1 million to build the store, it's like.
All of a sudden you have a mortgage and you can't handle it.
Exactly, yeah, and you have to, you know, all the help, and your prices are going to have to go up to help pay for all that, and it just isn't feasible.
Are there any programs to kind of incent or help benefit for small community groceries to?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
Not that I know of.
You think that'd be?
Well, I take that back. We've gotten things like through rural development. You know, we got a roof put on our building.
Sure.
We got a new air conditioner. So things like that. Yes, there is programs like that, but not necessarily to help your operating expenses.
So more generic in that
Exactly.
sense.
Yeah.
So
Or if you
just
know to
small
get new
business.
equipment or things like that. Yes, there is. There is. You can get a grant, or you can get a low interest loan. Things like that. We've done some of those things.
Do you think that's something that the public should be looking at and pursuing, is maybe creating those hometown health centers
Yeah.
in this case?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's a great idea. I like that idea a lot.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to try and, in this economy, it's interesting to get anyone to spend anything. But with all the healthcare debate and everything that we've talked about in that sense, I mean, there's a huge opportunity there for maybe going down that hometown health center and
Absolutely.
you know, taking the pop off the shelves and selling, you know,
Healthy
maybe all
juices
naturals.
And, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And you know, and you can maybe kind of go with the restaurants and get the restaurants involved with you. You know, you could do that too. So you know, there's opportunity there for you know, a lot of people in the same town to all be involved in a health center.
Do you know of any programs like that?
No, I don't.
No?
No,
Okay.
it's a good idea.
Okay. Yeah, amazing stuff we come up with on the fly.
Yeah.
So,
There you go.
Yeah. Now we just need funding.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
So, what about you know, what about your city legislatures and your city boards and that? Have you ever? Do you think that they could be approached for something like that? And a lot of communities nowadays, like Leroy, or even as large as an Austin or a Rochester, I mean, much larger communities even, they're still struggling to put themselves at a competitive advantage on a national level. They want to bring in jobs, but they have no idea how to get there.
Yeah.
I mean, is there a, do you think there's a market there? And
well, I think there is, and I think, back when my dad, like in the 70s and 80s, when business people in small towns, they were just completely self-sufficient. They didn't, ever think about going and asking, well, God, can you help me out here? Or,
Sure.
And I think it's a new concept in a small town. I'm trying to promote it more and to promote the restaurants buy from us, we buy from the restaurants type of thing, from everybody in town, helping out everybody. And I think that's the way we have to do it. But, going to the city and saying, yeah, I've never thought about that because, like I said, it's never been a concept that they've ever had to worry about in the past.
Sure.
But I think it's something that definitely in the future, if we want these small towns to stay,
well,
viable.
that's the thing is community development is a huge challenge nationally.
It is, yeah.
And to be able to, for a small community, especially these small communities, you have to do something like a Lanesboro where they totally redesign themselves into a tourist attraction.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've got other areas that have been able to redesign themselves into focal points for certain things. Think of Shakopee for a while.
Right.
And granted, they're much bigger now.
Yeah.
But when they first started it, that was the idea.
Lanesboro, the same thing.
Yep.
And we down there in Leroy, we have the state park, and we get a lot of traffic from the state park. The hosts out there, they bring my flyer out there, and we get a lot of business from the park. And we have the hotel, the haunted hotel. So we have different little things in town that we can, promote. But everybody
Ghosts need healthy food too.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yes. But they all, like I said again, I keep saying this, but everybody has to work together to survive.
Great. Well, I think that's a great concept of the whole thing, really. I mean, healthcare in general is really the same way.
Yep.
We need to work together to survive, and maybe in a different survival state.
Yeah.
But same kind of concept. So.
Yep.
So no, I think it's been great to have you on here, kind of talk about the Red Owl, and thank you for being on the show.
Yep. No problem. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, that's all for tonight, and this has been Sean Riley with Health Connections. Thank you.